Good morning, representatives. I'll call the House to order. This morning, the prayer and the pledge will be led by guests of Representative Kay Christofferson. The prayer will be offered by James Davidson, President of the Lehigh East Stake of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and the pledge will be led by Representative Christofferson's son, Jeff Christofferson. I invite everyone in the chamber as well as the gallery to please stand for the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our dear kind Father in heaven, we express gratitude for the opportunity we have to assemble as citizens and representatives of this great House of Representatives of the state of Utah. We're mindful of the business that is conducted here, and we pray that Thou wilt watch over it, that there may be healthy dialogue and an opportunity to discuss and debate issues that are pertinent and relevant to the entire state as a whole. We express gratitude for these good men and women who dedicate their time and service to representing the great state of Utah. At the same time, we pray that Thou watch over those who protect our freedoms in and around the world, as well as the men and women who protect us by way of the public safety services they provide. We express gratitude for all which Thou hast given unto us. We express thanks for this wonderful state and the many privileges given to us as a result of the fact that we live here. And these things we say in the sacred name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please follow me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Representatives, please mark the roll. I'll declare that we have a quorum present. Madam Reading Clerk, for communications from the Senate.
February 26, 2014. Madam Speaker, the President of the Senate has signed Second Substitute House Bill 245, State Fire Code Amendments by Representative Dunnigan, and is transmitted for the signature of the Speaker. Respectfully, Leslie McLean, Secretary of the Senate.
Thank you, Madam Reading Clerk. Second Substitute House Bill 245 has been signed by the Speaker and will be referred to staff for enrolling. Madam Reading Clerk.
February 26, 2014. Madam Speaker, the Senate passed a substituted and amended First Substitute Senate Bill 173, Child Protection Amendments by Senator Weiler, and it's transmitted for consideration. Respectfully, Leslie McLean, Secretary of the Senate.
Thank you, Madam Reading Clerk. This bill has been read for the first time and is referred to the Rules Committee. Madam Reading Clerk, for introduction of bills.
House Bill 169, Student Privacy Act, Representative Ander Egg. House Bill 417, English Language Arts Instructional Tool, Representative Moss. House Bill 418, Rights of Relatives to Child Visitation, Representative Christensen. House Bill 419, Charter School Revisions, Representative Elison. House Bill 420, Physical Therapist Licensing Amendments, Representative Sampé. House Bill 421, Sovereign Lands Management Account Amendments, Representative McKell. House Bill 422, Initiative and Referendum Impact Disclosure, Representative Last. House Bill 423, School District Post-Employment Health Insurance Benefit Amendments, Representative Elison. House Bill 424, Justice Court Amendments, Representative Stratton. House Bill 425, State Educational Sovereignty Act, Representative Elison. House Bill 426, Retirement Participation Modifications, Representative Ibsen. House Bill 427, Asset Forfeiture Revisions, Representative Hutchings. And House Bill 428, Veteran Benefit Assistance Disclosure, Representative Cosgrove.
Thank you, Madam Reading Clerk. These bills have been read for the first time and are referred to the Rules Committee. Representative Handy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. May I request a personal privilege?
Personal privilege granted.
I'd like to recognize today in the gallery the Social Welfare Policy Group class from Weber State University and their fine professors, Dr. Bigler, Dr. Pressey, and Dr. Bonella. And we welcome them to Capitol Hill today. Join with me in giving them a round of applause.
Representative Romero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Personal privilege?
Personal privilege granted.
I would like to recognize the Utah Nonprofit Association and their 650 members for the annual Nonprofit Day on the Hill. Nearly 40 nonprofits are represented here today, and many others will be here throughout the legislative session. The nonprofit sector in Utah employs 63,600 people, almost 5.5% of the state's workforce. This nonprofit sector in Utah generates $8 billion in annual revenue and holds assets of $14 billion. As government continues to reduce the national deficit, nonprofits will play an important role in filling the gaps and providing critical services in our community. By supporting the work of Utah nonprofits, you support Utah. I would like to acknowledge the entire nonprofit sector in Utah and the values these organizations bring to our state. So thank you for being with us here today.
Representatives, we have an item on the time certain calendar. Madam Reading Clerk.
First substitute House Bill 286, Child Sexual Abuse Prevention. Representative Romero. This bill was heard in Health and Human Services with a vote of 702.
Representative Romero.
Motion to delete title, the first substitute, title HB 286, and replace with second substitute HB 286.
I have that. Go ahead.
Okay. This was just a technical glitch, and we also added an item on line 69 which allows a parent to be present when the instruction is delivered. That's all for that.
Thank you. Is there discussion to the motion to replace? Representative Christensen on the motion to replace? Okay. Seeing no lights, Representative Romero for summation.
I waive.
Summation is waived. The motion is to replace first substitute House Bill 286 with second substitute House Bill 286 of the same title. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Or the motion passes. Representative Romero to the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. HB 286 empowers children, parents, and educators to confront a difficult and uncomfortable topic, sexual abuse. First, this bill provides training and resources to parents so that they have the tools to have conversations with their children. Nobody wants to think about any harm coming to their children, let alone abuse. But the reality is that a child is abused every 6 minutes in the United States. As parents, it is our responsibility to be prepared even for the unthinkable. Parents need to know how to talk to their children and how to help their children. Now, these conversations don't come easy. In fact, it's because these conversations are hard that we should provide support and training for parents. It may be uncomfortable, but comfortable comes second. It is the safety of our children that must come first. The second part of this bill provides preventative training for teachers so they can identify the signs when a child may be experiencing abuse. Teachers spend several hours with our children every day, and we ask a lot from them, but teachers can be the first responders to abuse. They can spot the signs, but only if they know what to look for. When a trained teacher is alerted to potential signs, they are able to partner with the parents in the best interest of their children. We need training so that they can identify and, more importantly, respond to our children needed in the most. Lastly, HB 286 provides children with education so they know how to stand up and speak out. Some of my colleagues have raised concerns that introducing this curriculum to children may confuse them about proper affection versus inappropriate behavior. But when we realize that only 1 in 10 children who are abused tell someone, it shows they're confused already. They don't know who to tell. They may not know that they should tell someone at all. That's why we should provide this education. I also want to note that this piece of education may be offered in the school, and there is an opt-out situation if a parent chooses not to participate. Another concern that many colleagues have raised has been about exposing children to difficult materials. But the harsh reality is that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are abused by the time they turn 18. Sadly, this is more common than we care to admit. We should be less concerned about exposing children to this information and much more concerned about the children who need this information. Elizabeth Smart summed up the need for this preventative education best by saying, "Children are taught to look both ways before crossing the road. They are taught to stop, drop, and roll in a fire. They should be given the knowledge to be able to say no. This is wrong and I'm uncomfortable." Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Romero. To the bill, Representative Moss.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Motion to amend.
It's in order.
I'd like to move Amendment 1 in my name, February 26, 2004. And the primary purpose of this amendment is to delete line 39 and 40. You can see the bracketed phrase. And this amendment comes as a result of compromise between the House and the Senate sponsor.
Representative Moss, no one seems to have the amendment. How did you approve it?
Well, it's listed under the substitute.
Is it on the system? Okay. Can you give us just 1 second so the circle can have that amendment? Amendment number 1. You got it? Okay. Go ahead.
Do you want me to say? I'm
Are you
finished.
done with your presentation?
I am.
Okay. Representative Romero to the motion to amend.
I accept. Senator Valentine is the sponsor of this piece of legislation in the Senate, and it's something that he and I agreed upon. Thank you.
Is there further discussion to the motion to amend? Seeing none, Representative Moss, would you like to sum?
I'll waive.
Summation is waived. The motion to amend is amendment number 1, dated February 26th at 6:13 p.m. All in favor of the motion to amend, please say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Rule the motion passes. The bill is amended. Further discussion to the bill. Representative Lifforth.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Speaker, I would like to speak in support of this proposed legislation today. As I represent the most people under the age of 18 in the state, their safety and well-being is very important to me. And as tragic as it is, child sexual abuse has occurred in my communities, and it has outraged me. I wanted to share a very important quote from a very wise man who was a former Utah Supreme Court justice. He said this recently, and it's profound, and I want everyone here to hear this. We also need politicians, policymakers, and officials to increase their attention to what is best for children in contrast to the selfish interest of voters and the vocal advocates of adult interests. This is a very serious subject, and I encourage everyone here to take this seriously and to vote in favor of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Val Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the sponsor yield to a question?
Representative Romero, will you yield?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I didn't notice in here a parental consent form, and I thought this bill was going to contain that.
This bill has an opt-out for parents.
So how does that work? Is there a form sent home so that they can opt out, or how do they know that they can opt out of the program?
So on line, hold on, I'm looking for it right now. So on line 62 line 62, and it states, an elementary student may not be given the instruction described in subsection 4 unless the parent or guardian of the student is notified advance of the instruction and contact of the instruction, and parent or guardian's rights to have the student excused from the instruction, given an opportunity to review the instruction materials before the instruction occurs. Upon the written request of a parent or guardian of an elementary student, the student shall be excused from the instruction described in subsection 4.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just wanted to support this proposed legislation. I deal on nearly a daily basis with abuse cases, and what enables abuse most is silence. Victims of abuse feel like they have no one to talk to. This will hopefully open up a dialogue and help victims of abuse learn that even when they are molested by someone they love and trust, typically it's an older sibling or a parent, a cousin, a neighbor, rather than remaining silent and keeping the secret, they can be encouraged that this is something they can talk about and should talk about, and this training will identify people they can talk to safely to get this information out and stop the abuse. The one thing our young people need to learn is to be assertive, to learn to stand up and speak up and get out of situations that will expose them to this kind of risk. So I think it's a good step. It's the ideal setting, of course, would be to have parents talk with kids, but parents or victims, children are often ashamed to talk even to their parents because they feel guilty themselves, the victims do, and so they need someone else to talk to. A clergyman is good, but sometimes they feel, again, ashamed to talk to a clergyman or a parent, and so to have someone else in a school setting, perhaps, that they can talk to will help stop some of the abuse that's going on. Thank you.
Representative Ivory.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise in support of this. I would imagine that most of us in our families have experienced someone close to us in this situation at one time or another. I know certainly in our family we have. Hopeful that this not only helps people address after the fact consequences, but to prevent things from happening. The manipulation that happens is unbelievable. A trusted adult in a situation of trust with the ability to manipulate a child to think that they consent, to think that they're part of a relationship, to think that they're engaging in something consensual is incredible, the manipulation that takes place. And the consequences from personal family experience last a lifetime. And I would encourage your support.
Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the sponsor yield to a question?
Representative Romero, will you yield?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I appreciate this bill and I support it. I was curious, though, in the committee hearing, it was quite clear that we talked about an opt-in versus an opt-out, and I feel like as I review this, I'm a bit caught off guard that we're now asking for the opt-out rather than the opt-in. I'd like clarification on that, what I feel is a fairly substantive change. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that, though. I'd like to have some explanation on that.
I've always presented this as an opt-out, not an opt-in, so maybe the way it was presented, you perceived it to be an opt-in, but it was an opt-out?
Well, just for clarification, maybe there's been too many amendments to kind of keep them all straight, but I'm just looking at a committee amendment. Amendment number 1, under your name. A student may not be given the instruction under subsection 2 unless the student's parent or guardian is notified in advance. So
that's an opt-out?
May not be given unless notification. I suppose for the body, I'd just like to make clear that there may have been a change, and I'd like us to make sure that we're carefully looking at what we talked about in committee, which you weren't there, but I felt pretty clear that parents' involvement was a key part. In spite of the fact that many times the parent and family are the problem, we also need to consider the fact that that is the rare occurrence. And I want to make sure that actually parents are part of this process in spite of the fact that sometimes they are the perpetrator. Most times parents are not the perpetrators, they're in fact the protectors, and we need to make sure that we are clear on these policy points before we move forward on this bill.
Well, Madam Speaker, may I respond?
Representative, that was a statement,
okay,
not a question. Are you done, Representative Kennedy? Thank you. Representative Cosgrove.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just referencing this item on the amendment, I think the clarification when we are asking parents to receive the information, that they're notified before our children are educated in this subject area, and that subject area that's vitally important for our parents to have that opportunity, to have that conversation with our children, ourselves, beforehand, or choose to opt ourselves out of our children from receiving that information, that education, as it's being provided in the school. I think that's the clarification we're looking for. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Cosgrove. Representative Barras.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We're speaking to the bill at this time, is
That's
that correct? Would the sponsor yield to a question?
Representative Romero,
Yes.
will you yield? Go ahead.
Representative, I have constituents who feel that this is a noble endeavor. The concern and question that's been raised to me is that the instructional material, which will be prepared, as it says here, through the human services and nonprofit organizations specializing in child sexual abuse prevention. How do we assure that those instructional materials that are provided to our children are really are appropriate, and at some point along the line are not hijacked to begin teaching sexual education at a lower age or younger age or things like that? So what do we have in place to assure the purity of what this bill is all about?
The amendment, because I've been working with the senator sponsor, Senator Valentine, the amendment that the good Representative Moss amended took out the nonprofit piece of it. Under the Department of Human Services, we have a Child Abuse Advisory Council, which is mandated. And so with that and the Board of Education, they can work on those particular issues. And I think you kind of had a question on, there are programs that are already in existence in our schools for elementary age students, and all those programs have an opt-out piece to it, component already.
Thank you. If I may just follow up then.
Go ahead, Representative.
I appreciate that explanation. I'm grateful for the amendment that has been put in there, because we all really recognize the importance of this type of prevention. I just want to be sure that it doesn't go awry on us because a good thing didn't occur because we didn't put enough controls on it. So thank you very much.
Representative Christensen.
Yes, Madam Speaker, a motion to amend.
That's in order.
I want to thank the sponsor. This has been very sensitively handled and presented all along the way, and we have a broad consensus as expressed on what we're trying to do. But here's the amendment, and it speaks to what several of the representatives have asked, is that it was understood by many that there was some confusion over some of the data that was given as far as the role of the family members and the degree to which they were either positive or negative factors in some of the conditions that we're alerting to. So that led to the discussion of an opt-in as it relates to the parents rather than the opt-out. And so,
can I get the amendment?
The amendment is as follows. At the end of line 66, it would say and we would add a subparagraph C, and it would say the parent gives their prior written consent.
Valentine's with me on this one. He doesn't want to.
Can you say that one more time? The parent gives their
prior written consent.
Okay, so the amendment is at the end of line 66 to add the word and put in a new C, which says the parent gives their prior written consent.
Yes.
Go ahead.
What that does, and I know the discussion is the pros and cons of an opt-in versus an opt-out, and that's where much of the discussion has been. I think the real strength of the bill is what they've done to alert everyone to the fact. Can you imagine what a positive role it would be? And I know several child psychologists that go from school to school. They've been child psychologists for years. And they have a wonderful discerning spirit about them. They see red flags. They see problems. These kids that are entrusted into their care during the day. And these wonderful teachers, when they see those things as well, that they can identify a child that just has outward indications that they need to be helped. And now you're giving them specific instruction that's being prepared. And the State Office of Education all are rallying together on this sensitive area, and they're coming up with the materials. That, I think, is outstanding. Everyone's supportive of that. Then trying to strike that appropriate balance so that this cautionary and protective instruction is a support to and doesn't have an unintended adverse effect upon the child's relationship with their parents and family members. And I believe the sponsor will acknowledge that there was some confusion over statistical data originally as to what some of the factors were. So what this would do in the spirit of all that is that it preserves all of the positive accomplishments of the information that's being given, and then still gives the parent, and the vast majority of whom are in this very positive, supportive role, that their prior written consent would be required, and they'd be, so it's just opt-in versus opt-out, and this allows it, but it actually leaves the language in as well, where someone could expressly request to be opted out, but it does give them the added protection of knowing that they'll be notified in advance, and that they'll actually, there can't be any confusion where someone says, I thought you approved, no I didn't, yes I did. This would be something where it would be more clear in the initial presentation.
Representative Romero to the motion to amend.
I oppose that. Representative, I think we were at two different meetings. I specifically, when we talked about this, and Representative, there were other representatives in the room, specifically said it would be an opt-out. The Senate sponsor is supportive of an opt-out. He's not supportive of an opt-in as well. And if we do an opt-in, it's going to hurt programs that currently already exist in our schools. And so I would strongly oppose this amendment.
Representatives, I'm going to remind everyone that when we debate bills, the debate is supposed to go through the speaker, not to each other.
Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry, Representative, it's not just to you, but this has kind of been a habit that we're developing. We're beginning to talk to one another as opposed to going through the speaker. So I just want to remind everyone of that.
So Madam Speaker, I oppose this amendment. When we spoke in committee, I specifically emphasized an opt-out, so I apologize if any of my colleagues misunderstood that. But there are already programs in our schools that provide this kind of programming at an elementary level, and I would hate to hurt what they're already doing.
Thank you, Representative. To the motion to amend, Representative Stratton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You look good today. It's always a pleasure to address this body. Madam Speaker, address the body through you. Thank you. I would just like to comment if I could. I think we're trying to do something that's very, very important. There's a ripening process that can take place. My counsel to the body would be to consider this approach. If we initially start with a parental opt-in and allow the curriculum to develop, that'll give an opportunity to vet what takes place, and then come back and switch it to an opt-out. I think that would make sense in this situation. I appreciate all that's been done by our good sponsor and by those that have weighed in, but my sense is what I'm not seeing is a parental oversight group that could have input before it rolls out, and this may give that opportunity to take place. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the maker of the amendment yield to a question?
Representative Christensen, will you yield?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The question is, I'm supportive of this amendment for the same reasons expressed by the good representative from Orem. I'm just wondering if maybe we have it in the wrong place. Maybe if it makes more sense as an IV, a number 4 IV, instead of at the end of B, where we have it.
I would agree. In fact, just in the interest of time, I was actually requesting a written amendment, and it just finally arrived, and it makes that very change. And so procedurally, we could do it.
Representative Christensen, have you approved that amendment?
I just received it, and I can do it now, but I think we can.
If you could approve that amendment,
okay.
That will make it on the system, and someone else can place that amendment as a substitute motion to amend.
I think with the, it has one other line in it.
I'll just move the amendment.
Just do this one.
All I'm going to do is move it.
Yes, they'll do that. Thank you.
Representative Roberts, do you have anything more?
I'll waive. That's it.
Thank you. Further discussion to the motion to amend that is before us. Representative Seelig.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On the fact sheet that I'm looking at, that is very clear, approximately 3/4 of reported cases of child sexual abuse are committed by family members or other individuals who are considered part of the victim's circle of trust. If we make this amendment, we're asking the majority or members of the majority group of people who commit these atrocious acts to give permission to children to learn how to defend themselves. That just doesn't make sense at all. I speak strongly against the amendment.
Representative Anderegg.
Will, Madam Speaker, will the sponsor yield to a question? The sponsor of the original bill.
Representative Romero, will you yield?
Have you approved this? Because it's not on the
Yes.
Go ahead.
To the last point and question that was brought up by the minority leader, I just want to verify the information cited on this sheet. Would you please help me understand? I believe that there were 2 fact sheets going around originally, prior to your committee and after the committee. Am I wrong in understanding that the first fact sheet indicated this 3/4 number?
No, actually.
And that the second fact sheet indicated 11% for sexual child abuse versus child abuse?
So, Madam Speaker, initially the Department of Human Services had given me numbers for child abuse versus child sex abuse. And so when child abuse occurs in the direct family, if it's a parent, a mother or a father, that's 11%. And 51% of that is by a trusted adult within that family circle, but it's not an actual family member.
Madam Speaker, for additional clarification, so the distinction is that you're saying not just a parent, but family members as well as parents or other trusted individuals? So that's how you get to the 3/4.
Committed by family members or other individuals who are considered part of the victim's circle of trust. Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Representative Ipson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Motion to make a underlying motion.
A substitute motion?
Substitute motion.
That's in order.
On line 69, insert the word is between triple I and allowed. And then under that, as IV, which would be 4, gives prior written consent. And that should amend it to clarify the issue on this.
Okay. So on line 69, after the triple I, insert the word is. And then at the end of that line, add a new line that is
Line 4.
IV. Gives prior written consent.
Period. That is correct.
Would you like to speak to that?
I don't. I'll give my time to the original sponsor of this amendment.
Representative Christensen to the substitute motion to amend.
Thank you. I approve of that, and that is the clarification that was desired. That's a better positioning. Thank you very much for catching that. I just want to assure the body, thank you, Madam Speaker, that I wholeheartedly support the spirit and the intent of this measure. And I'm very, very sensitive to the circumstances that give rise to it. And I'm very, very mindful of the individual. And I can look each one in the eye and just say, in trying to find the appropriate balance, I think the good representative pointed out that this is progress. This is a great measure. And let's go ahead and get the materials presented and developed. Let's begin to work with the faculties and the schools, and then we can take that next step as well. But I think in trying to get the balance between the letter and the spirit of the law, as I look at that, I think in trying to be sensitive to the families, and I know of the one individual case, and there's more than one, but the one that I'm thinking of the most. I know that your horrific experiences have made you such a model, an example, and a voice, and those who also join with you to the same degree. And yet when we adopt law, it's all pervasive for the entire state. It's everyone. And there are many families that have concerns and want it to be balanced, and I think that this would be the best way to balance those. The letter and the spirit would hope that this amendment would help accomplish what we're progressing and doing, which I wholeheartedly support. So thank you.
Representative Romero to the substitute motion to amend.
Madam Speaker, I strongly oppose that. Currently, right now, we have nonprofits working in the school, and this amendment would hurt that. And so our schools right now, many of them already do this program. This was just a way to model for other schools that didn't have a program. And by accepting this amendment, we're going to hurt a lot of good programs that are already out there. So I strongly oppose this amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Is there further discussion to the substitute motion to amend? Seeing none, Representative Ibsen, would you like to sum? Summation is waived. The substitute motion to amend is on line 69. After the triple I, add the word is, and add a new line after line 69 that is small 4, gives prior written consent, period. All in favor of the substitute motion to amend, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay.
No.
I'll rule the motion passes.
Division.
Division is called. If 5 or more will stand, we'll be in division. Voting is open on the substitute motion to amend. Representatives, we're voting on the substitute motion to amend. Seeing all present having voted, voting will be closed. Substitute motion to amend, having received 28 yes votes, 44 no votes, fails to pass. We're back to the original motion to amend. Is there further discussion to the motion to amend? Representative Christensen for summation.
I think we just positioned it, so I think we expressed our will, but we can proceed accordingly. And again, I think we're all in unity on wanting to address these very sensitive situations. We're just trying to get the appropriate balance.
Thank you, Representative. The motion to amend is at the end of line 66. Add the word and. On line 65, strike the word and. On the end of line 66, add the word and a C. The parent gives prior written consent. All in favor say aye. Any opposed, say nay. Well, the motion fails. Back to discussion to the bill. Seeing no further lights, Representative Romero for summation on the bill.
Only 1 in 10 sexually abused children tell somebody. What HB 286 does is it involves parents, it involves school personnel, and it involves children. And so I want to thank the Smart family who's here with us today, and the Brown family, and many other nonprofit organizations and different schools that I've been working with to put this important issue to light. Child sex abuse is something we don't like to think about, but it does happen. And I would appreciate your support on this bill and addressing this really challenging issue for all our communities, not just here in Utah, but across the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Voting is open on second substitute House Bill 286. Or you can do it with the mouse. I like to use the mouse. Angela, I can't have people. When this is on, you're talking. So this light is always on. This is how. Leave that one on all the time. Seeing all present having voted, voting will be closed. Second substitute House Bill 286, having received 73 yes votes, 0 no votes, passes the House, will be transmitted to the Senate for its consideration. Representative Green.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Personal privilege, please.
Personal privilege granted.
Thank you. Representatives, today we are being watched carefully by students of the John Hancock Charter School in Pleasant Grove, along with their director, Julie Adamick. If they're up here in the gallery, could they please stand, and could you help me welcome them here today? Thank you.
Madam Reading Clerk. Consent calendar.
House Bill 363, Mental Health Professional Practice Act Amendments, Representative Kennedy. This was heard in Health and Human Services with a vote of 9-0-0.
Representative Kennedy. Let me turn your mic on just a second.
Down one row.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. HB 363 was brought to me by the Behavioral Health Care Workforce Work Group. It is a simple fix that allows DAPL, the Department of Professional Licensing, discretion in granting an externship license to a mental health professional and reduces the likelihood that an underqualified mental health professional will receive an externship license. This is protection for our population of vulnerable citizens who receive these services in the mental health arena. And it's an excellent bill, and I hope you can support it.
Thank you. Voting is open.
You see discussion to the bill?
No. How do we open the vote? How do we open the vote?
There's a green and a red button on the bottom.
Here. Thank you. I've only done this for 4 years. Please quickly vote. Representative Barris, Lifrith, seeing all present having voted, we'll close the vote. House Bill 63, having received 71 yea votes, 0 no votes, passed this body and will be forwarded to the Senate for further consideration. Representative Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Personal privilege?
Personal privilege granted.
Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, I believe, if my window is still accurate, we have 7th graders from American Preparatory Academy. Are they here today? If they could please stand. We have 160 students there. We have Catherine Finley, the director, Whitney Reich, the coordinator, and we want to welcome them to the People's House and to the arena, the House of Representatives here at the state, and welcome them. Thanks for coming here today.
Thank you. Madam Reading Clerk.
Senate Bill 125, Retired Volunteer Health Care Practitioner Amendment, Senator Henderson. The House sponsor is Representative McKell. This was heard in Health and Human Services with a vote of 801.
Thank you. Representative McKell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Temp. This is an easy bill. It amends the eligibility requirements when you apply to be a retired volunteer healthcare professional. On line 41, it just includes a district or territory of the United States. Thank you.
Shouldn't I? Thank you. Voting is open on House Bill or Senate Bill 125. Excuse me. Quickly vote. Representative Anderson, Representative Last, Representative Hughes, Powell, Lifrith. Seeing all present having voted, we'll close the vote. Senate Bill 125, having received 68 yea votes. Yeah, that's all right. How do we get the 69 yea votes, 0 no votes? Having passed, this body will be returned to the Senate for the President's signature. Madam Reading Clerk.
SCR 5, Concurrent Resolution Supporting the Master Plan. Senator Dayton.
You got to speak. Speak loud. Speak loud. Yes, we're now moving to the Senate calendar, this being a Senate day. We need to be prepared. So we'll go now to Representative Snow for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I'd like to make a motion, please, with respect to SB 115, which is circled. I'd move to uncircle that bill.
The motion is, so would you state the title, please?
Senate Bill 115, Court Transcript Fees.
Motion to uncircle the bill. Discussion of the motion? Seeing none. All in favor of the motion say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. The bill is uncircled. Representative Snow, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. And then, to begin with, I have a motion. I would like to move that this body adopt Amendment Number 2, filed February 27th, 2014 at 10:21 a.m. under my name.
The motion is that we amend the bill. Do we have a copy of that motion here? Yes. The amendment is in Representative Snow's name, dated February 27, 2014, 10:21 a.m. Would you please explain that motion?
Thank you. Mr. Speaker Pro Tem and members of the body, this amendment relates to the bill on file that goes to the amount that a certified court transcriber charges per page for a transcript that is prepared that goes from a lower court, from the trial court, to the appellate court. For your information, when a case is appealed from a lower court, either to the Court of Appeals or to the Supreme Court, the paper record is sent to the appellate court, but in addition, if it's been a trial or any kind of a proceeding that requires a transcript of what is said in trial or in the proceedings in court, that has to be reduced to a written document and also submitted as part of the record. This amendment that is before the body changes or proposes to change the language from the Senate bill that's come over from up to $5 per page to $4.50 per page flat fee. Now the reason is the Court of Appeals, in speaking with the clerk, the way they operate and manage this process, the only way they're able to do it is with a flat fee amount, not with different amounts from different court reporters. So it is my amendment, based on my consultations with them, based on numerous consultations with the Court Reporters Association, that $4.50 is a proper fee. Now that's an addition, that's a raise from the previous amount that was $3.50, but it's less than the amount that was in the Senate version that comes over, which allowed to charge up to $5. That goes to my motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem.
Discussion to the motion to amend. Seeing none, we'll go back to sponsor summation.
I'll waive summation.
Motion is to amend Senate Bill 115, Amendment Number 2, dated February 27, 2014, 10:21 a.m. All in favor of the motion to amend, say aye. Opposed, no. Chair rules the motion carried. Discussion of the bill.
Now to the bill. I think I've described in some detail what this bill is. The reason the courts are involved at all is because when these transcribers prepare this transcript, they have to certify to the appellate court that the record that they are submitting is an accurate verbatim, to the very best of their ability, of the proceedings below. It is a very time-intensive, very difficult process for them to prepare those transcripts. Now, when I first started practicing law, every courtroom had their own court reporter. But in the last 5 years, that's changed in our courts, so the only record that's kept is an electronic version. This requires these men and these ladies to take that recorded version of those proceedings, sometimes involving multiple attorneys, several witnesses, judges, and listening to that, try to determine who's speaking, what precisely is being said, and prepare those transcripts. I work with court reporters on a very regular basis. I know how hard they work, and I also know how conscientious they are in trying to prepare and keep a proper record. They take their jobs very seriously, and when they sign that certification that goes up, they have worked to the very best of their ability to make sure that's a proper transcript. Their per-page fee has not increased for 13 years. It was previously at $350, flat fee. This amendment, or this bill now that's before us as amended, proposes that that be raised to $450. That's my presentation. I'm ready for questions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem.
Thank you. To the bill, Representative Tanner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Would the sponsor yield to a question?
Will the sponsor yield?
Yes.
You may proceed.
A portion of the bill, I'm looking at lines 38 through 43, changes where the money goes. And I was wondering if you could explain that part to us.
There was a time when the courts, either the Court of Appeals, well, usually the Court of Appeals, managed how those payments were made. So a court transcript was ordered, the transcribe was completed, and the court then would bill the attorneys for that work. This provision takes the courts out of that, and so if you look at the line beginning at line 48, takes the courts out of the middle and requires that transaction to be taken care of between the attorneys requesting the transcript and the court reporters who provide it. So I hope that answers your question. That's the reason those provisions are stricken. It takes the courts out of the middle. And by the way, there is no fiscal note on this.
May I ask a follow-up, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem?
You may proceed.
I take it then that this is not going to reduce the funds available for bringing technology into the courtrooms?
It will not. Has no bearing on that.
Thank you.
Representative Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Will the sponsor yield to a question?
Sponsor yield?
Certainly.
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. With the bill as amended, we set a fixed fee for the transcript, and I agree that they deserve an increase. It's been a long time. They need the increase. But now with a fixed fee rather than an optional up to fee, do we remove the element of competition among the court reporters? Some hungry young court reporters may be willing to do the same work for a lower fee, which would be to the benefit of some litigants who don't have the same resources. So could you respond to that, and do we have the full approval of the reporters to go forward with a fixed fee?
Yes, in fact, I'm glad you raised that question because in my presentation I forgot to address that. The version that came from the Senate, they felt strongly about having that market element in there. So that's why their writing said up to $5, and frankly, the court reporters could have lived with that. I did some more research. It was made known to me that the Court of Appeals, the office of the clerk who deals with these transcripts, had an issue with that language, and I couldn't imagine why until after I spoke with her. And this is the problem. The Court of Appeals, the office that manages the transcripts, in order to be fair with all of the court transcribers, they keep a rolling list of all those that want to do these transcripts. And so when an attorney orders a transcript, they take the reporter at the top of the list. They told me that it would create significant problems if they had multiple rates. And so you would have essentially attorneys calling saying, give me the next $2, or excuse me, the next $3.50 or the next $4 rate. It was their strong preference for managing this process, which they have to do because to some extent, because they have to intersect between the transcribers and relaying that record to the court. it was their strong recommendation that instead of it being up to $5, that it be a flat fee. And so in speaking with the stakeholders, so to speak, we determined that $4.50 was an effort to arrive at a figure that accommodated the courts and also accommodated the court reporters.
All right, just I guess in response, it seems like the state is fixing almost a monopoly fee. We're removing some competition in the court reporter business. But if they've signed on to it, if they're all comfortable with it, and I assume if they're rotating through, everybody's going to get an equal shot at the business. And so maybe we're okay.
May I respond? I believe that we are, and as the good representative that's asking these questions knows, the court transcript part of a court reporter's business is usually only a secondary part. The main part of their business that involves taking depositions and reporting those it takes the majority of their time. So that part still remains intact in terms of market forces, so to speak. But the flat fee provision that was put in, again, was at some strong request and insistence of the clerk that manages this, saying it would be a much more difficult challenge to manage that and give fair representation or fair chance to everyone on that list without this flat fee.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion to the bill? Seeing none, the Representative Snow for summation.
Just briefly, after 13 years, I think the court reporters are due for some help and for an increase. I can tell you, based on my experience listening to electronic recordings of those hearings, it is a very difficult and time-consuming challenge. And they do a great work, and frankly, without their help, without their assistance and their certification that goes to the Court of Appeals, we'd be in trouble in our judiciary. So I think it's a good bill, and I would ask that this body vote with me in approving it. Thank you.
Thank you. Voting is open on Senate Bill 115. Quickly vote, representatives. Seeing all present having voted, we'll close the vote. With the House Amendment, Senate Bill 115, as amended, has passed the House with 64 yea votes, 4 nay votes. We return to the Senate for further consideration.
Don't forget to announce rules.
Representative Stan Pei is requested, and the Speaker grants permission for the Rules Committee to meet immediately. Madam Reading Clerk.
Senate Bill 134, Taxation-Related Referendum Amendment, Senator Valentine. The House sponsor is Representative Stratton. This was heard in Revenue and Taxation with a vote of 1402.
Representative Ipson. Just a second. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Motion to circle.
Motion to circle. All discussion of the motion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion carries. The bill is circled. Madam Reading Clerk.
SCR 5, Concurrent Resolution Supporting the Master Plan, Senator Dayton. The House sponsor is Representative Kennedy. This was heard in Health and Human Services with a vote of 702.
Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem and Representatives. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about the Utah State Developmental Center. It's a privilege for myself and several in my community to go and visit the Developmental Center once or twice a year to volunteer, just so that you can get a sense of context as I describe this concurrent resolution, which merely supports a master plan that's been developed. I'd like you to understand the Developmental Center a little more. We've talked about it before, but to make sure that you have the importance of what this facility does, I'd like to reemphasize things that I've talked about before to this body. The Developmental Center has seriously disabled individuals living there, and they live there for much of their lives. They as permanent residents, receive significant support from the state as well as local communities in a variety of ways. The Developmental Center has been present in the state of Utah since 1929. And during that period of time, initially it was granted a significant portion of land that was frankly intended, based on the early developmental aspects of it, to isolate and also allow self-sufficiency for these individuals. The land in this area has progressively developed in the past 80 or so years, and now has significant commercial value as well as real estate value. The Developmental Center exists in the very center of the land, and to the north of that is Lone Peak High School. To the west is a golf course. Both of those facilities have been developed on Developmental Center land, and the sale of that property was a one-time financial boon to the Developmental Center, but once the land was sold, it disappeared and the money was used. The master plan, which is before you on the concurrent resolution, is a collaborative effort by various stakeholders, including the local community as well as the Developmental Center itself and the Department of Human Services, to perpetually financially benefit the Developmental Center. So the master plan, in endorsing that concept, we as a body will lend credence to the likelihood that this master plan will lead to financial independence and ultimately self-sufficiency for these very vulnerable citizens of the state of Utah. And with that, I love the Developmental Center. It's been a privilege for me and my family to be involved there, and I strongly encourage your support for this resolution to endorse the master plan, which actually allows financial independence in perpetuity for the Developmental Center. And with that presentation, I'm happy to take any questions this body may have for me.
To the resolution, Representative Chavez-House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I rise in support of this resolution and encourage the body to support it. One thing that I find so compelling about this effort is that there were community members, individuals who have utilized the center, their families, other important stakeholders that have been in long-time conversations to come to the components of the master plan. It's when you see this community support for the master plan that one knows that it was a good, effective effort. And again, I appreciate the sponsor and the efforts on behalf of the individuals that are served by the center.
Thank you. Further discussion? Representative Andre.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I rise in support of this legislation. I have had the opportunity to go up to the Developmental Center and provide volunteer service to clean up the lawns and the garden areas and to provide service to those people who really are the most needy in our society. And I applaud the representative from Alpine and Highland and his efforts in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, Representative Kennedy for summation.
I'll waive. Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem.
Summation's waived. Voting is open on Senate Concurrent Resolution 5. Quickly vote. Representative Gibson.
Fisher, Edwards, Oda.
What?
Fisher. Fisher hasn't voted.
Speaker better vote. Seeing all present having voted, we'll close the vote. Senate Bill 134 has passed the House.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 5.
Excuse me, Senate Concurrent Resolution 5 has passed the House with 67 yea votes, 1 nay vote. Will be forwarded to the Senate, the Speaker's signature for the President's. Return to the President for further action. I can swallow that thing, you bet. All right. Madam, oh no, we'll go to Representative Stratton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. You look very nice in the seat today. I actually had someone use the word dapper, but I wasn't sure if it was appropriate for me to say you look dapper, but I just did, but thank you. I'd like to present a motion to uncircle Senate Bill 134.
Motion to uncircle Senate Bill 134. Any discussion of that motion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, uncircle Senate Bill 134 entitled Taxation-Related Referendum Amendments. Say aye. Opposed, no. Chair rules the motion carries. Representative Stratton, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I would first like to present a motion to amend taxation-related referendum amendments to Amendment 3, dated February 26, 2014 at 4:24 p.m. in my name.
The motion, we amend Senate Bill 134, Amendment Number 3, dated February 26, 2014 at 4:24 p.m. Discussion of the motion to amend. Maybe we ought to have you explain that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. It further clarifies the language. There was a concern on how it was presented in the legislation, and I'll just say that it's supported by all the stakeholders and will further clarify, and I'll make that clarification as I present the legislation to the House.
Now we've explained it. Any discussion to the motion? Seeing none. Would you like to
waive?
Sum up? Summaries waive. All in favor of the motion to amend Amendment 3, dated February 26, 2014, 4:24 p.m. Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Chair ruled the motion carries. Representative Stratton, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Earlier today, we handed out a description and comparison between Senate Bill 134 as amended and the current law. It's a pale blue color, if you would like to get that, if you have any questions. The Supreme Court in Carter v. Lehigh ruled that the right of referendums, the voice of the citizens to be heard by referendum, is equal to the voice of the citizens being heard through the legislative process. We have the referendum process that takes place. However, it hasn't worked well with the truth in taxation hearings that we have. The unintended consequence is several of our political subdivisions, Orem last year, Highland last year, passed legislation affecting taxes. It was opposed by those that filed the referendum, and the result was that there was not a conclusion on whether that tax would go into effect or not for over 15 months until the 2013 November election. So the decision to deal with the taxes by the political subdivision was made in August, but there wasn't assurance or certainty until almost 2 years later in the tax and fiscal years. What we have done with this, we've been working on this piece of legislation, Senator Valentine, myself, for the last 2 years. What we have done is we've created some specific deadlines for the political subdivision to meet in the process. As you look on that paper, you'll see that there are 2 days for the political subdivision to certify that the referendum is available and present the packets. The citizens have 40 days to gather the signatures and educate and promote, and then there's 12 days to verify those signatures and 30 days to campaign. The result is that the issue comes before the body and the political subdivision is voted upon by the citizens in the same year. Currently, I'll just point out, you can wait until the last day that you can have a truth and taxation hearing would be August 17th. And that the time frames I went over on this sheet assumes that truth and taxation was held on August 10th. So if we have 7 days less, that would come out of the 30 days, the 7 days or any other days backing away from that August 10th. I said August 10th, I need to correct myself, August 7th. 95% of all the truth and taxation hearings are held by that time on the 7th. But if they go past that date, the time frame is taken away from that 30 days to campaign by the political subdivision. I would be very grateful to answer any questions that this body may have, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem.
Further discussion to this bill. Representative Handy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Will the sponsor yield to a question?
Yes.
Just briefly to say that in speaking, I know this is about cities and towns, but I know that at least our county clerk in Davis County is pretty concerned about this. Is the 2-day period enough for lawyers, attorneys to draft the language, and how do you respond to the concern that there's no voter information pamphlet?
Thank you for that great question. The 2 days to begin is the 2 days in commencing the process the city is given to prepare and certify. It would be anticipated the burden would be upon the one making the proposal, recognizing that there may be a need to prepare ahead of those 2 days that a certain piece of legislation may be subject and challenged through the referendum process. It puts the burden upon the city to do that. Those that represent the cities and towns, the League of Cities and Towns, are confident that that's acceptable to them. They bought in on this, and so that's my response to that first question. The second question is the information pamphlet. It becomes very difficult for a political subdivision to certify after certify all the signatures and turn around and have a 20-day window to turn around that information. The thing that we have to recognize is in the practice of law, there's a presumption that there's either the plaintiff or one of the parties needs to have carry the burden of proving the matter. And what we're doing here, because it's the political subdivision that is seeking to prove the matter, we're putting the burden on them rather than the citizens and decreasing their time. As you can see up above, the current law, they're given 45 days potentially to gather signatures, but that's really an illusion. That 45 days is not because there's the constraints above the current law. The political subdivision can take up to 20 days before the signature process could even begin. The concern that I've heard, and it's a good concern, and we're trying to balance all the issues, is how do we prepare for and get the information out? We need to recognize that the education process really takes place as those signatures are gathered and there's that one-on-one contact with those that are concerned. That's how I'd answer that. Thank you.
Thank you. That helps a little bit. Thank you.
Further discussion to the bill? Seeing none, Representative Stratton for summation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Representatives, this is not an easy circumstance to deal with. We've been at it 2 years. There's been a lot of input and weighing in by the stakeholders. I would say this with great confidence. This bill is much better than no bill at all on this matter, and so therefore I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Voting is open. Representative McKiff. Representative Seelig. Representative Fisher. Seeing all present having voted, we'll close the vote. Senate Bill 134, as amended, has passed the House with 72 yea votes, 0 no votes, and will be returned to the Senate for further consideration. Yes. We have Representative Redd for personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I rise this morning to present an official citation honoring Intermountain Healthcare. We have Dr. Charles Sorensen, who's the president and CEO of Intermountain Healthcare. And before I start this citation, I just want to tell you that this citation in no way diminishes the many contributions from many excellent healthcare providers throughout our state that are not part of Intermountain Healthcare. But this is a citation specifically honoring Intermountain Healthcare. When I was a brand new physician 25 years ago in Logan, Utah, I started working for a private clinic. And in that private clinic, I quickly realized that I was being penalized for taking care of patients who were poor or did not have insurance or weren't able to pay their bills. And about 3 or 4 years after I joined this clinic, the clinic made a decision, which was probably the most important decision that they made in their existence, which was to join Intermountain Healthcare as a group of physicians that were employed directly in the Physicians Division of Intermountain Healthcare. And what this resulted in was a change in the philosophy of how we took care of patients. We started being able to actually take care of people, and as physicians, we could do what we needed to do without worrying too much about exactly whether or not they were going to pay their bills. And the philosophy and the mission of Intermountain Healthcare is to provide generally available medical care to residents of our region who have a medical need regardless of their ability to pay. And what I've observed over my years of working with them is they actually stick to their mission and do that. And it's been an enormous benefit to our state and to the residents of our state, many of which do not have adequate health care access. During the process of being employed by Intermountain Healthcare, I also worked at their free clinic in Logan on Main Street, seeing people who had no insurance and had no way to pay. We also saw people in our clinic that were referred from the free clinic who needed follow-up longitudinal care. It was a great system. In 2005, I actually left Intermountain Healthcare because I needed to spend some more time taking care of my wife, who came down with a really serious illness at that point in her life. I needed to be a 40-hour-a-week guy instead of a 70-hour-a-week guy. And so I basically joined the health department, but I still observed the good works of Intermountain Healthcare through my work at the health department, providing us with low-cost x-rays for TB patients who couldn't pay, and all sorts of things like this. I currently work 1 day a week at a federally qualified healthcare that's not part of IHC, but they still provide us with low-cost x-ray studies for service for these patients who can't afford their health care. So this citation is a great honor for me to give. I actually, when I was thinking about this last night, I broke down and cried. This is really important to me. I've observed the goodwill of this organization, this nonprofit organization that's provided, millions of dollars of services to patients who can't afford health care. And I just really want to show my appreciation, and I encourage the body to show your appreciation for Intermountain Healthcare's service over the many years here in Utah with a round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming, and congratulations. We've concluded the work on our Senate calendar now today. This being a Senate day, we'll go to the House calendar, so please be ready with your bill, and we'll get this train rolling a little faster. Madam Reading Clerk.
House Bill 196, Fleet Management Amendments, Representative Hutchings. This was heard in Government Operations with a vote of 801.
Representative Hutchings.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. I need to move an amendment in my name, amendment number 2.
You may proceed. Explain that amendment. The amendment is amendment number 2, dated February 25th, 2014, 10:31 a.m. You explain that amendment, please.
You bet. The bill addresses some issues the Attorney General has been working on in relationship to people in their office using vehicles. It's an effort that they're doing in conjunction with the Auditor's Office. After the bill got out of committee, we found that there is a rule inside of the Division of Fleet Operations that we wanted to connect that would add just a second layer of clarity. Doesn't change the bill at all. It just references back to the same rule that the statute is connecting to, and so the amendment adds that reference into the bill.
Discussion to that motion to amend. Seeing none, Representative Hutchings, did you care to summate?
I'll waive, thank you.
Summation is waived. The amendment is Amendment 2, dated February 25th, 2014, 10:31 a.m. All in favor of the motion to amend, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. The bill is amended. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem. Representatives, this is very straightforward. The Attorney General is looking at every area of his agency how they do their work, the equipment that they provide, their budget. As part of that process, they wanted to have some clarification into the use of vehicles. And so that is what this does. It very clearly nails down that it shall be used under the rules provided by the Division of Fleet Operations, and puts them in. They've been in compliance. This just helps to clarify it, to make sure that the employees of the AG's office know what's appropriate use and what isn't. And they travel quite a bit. The Attorney General's office covers the entire state. They do a lot of appeals works with the counties. They do a lot of investigative work in relationship to crimes that occur all over the state. So they do travel an awful lot. And it is actually very appropriate for them to use these vehicles. We've discussed it. This just codifies it. And with that, Mr. Speaker Pro Tem, I'd be open to any questions.
Further discussion of the bill? Seeing none, Representative Hutchings, do you care to sum up?
A waive summation. Thank you, sir.
Summation's waived. Voting is open on House Bill 196. She'll be back up here in just a minute. Okay. We got to hey, Joe. She wants to start on community reports. She wants to be ready to start on community reports. I think she wants to be out here to do that. Okay, tell her we can't wait forever. She'll be right up. Okay.
Don't forget to vote. Don't forget to vote.
Quickly vote.
Layton.
Representative Layton. Seeing all present having voted, we'll close the vote. House Bill 196 is amended. It receives 71 yea votes and 0 no votes. We forward to the Senate for their consideration. Just a minute.
Madam Reading Clerk for Standing Committee reports.
February 26, 2014. Madam Speaker, the Judiciary Committee has returned House Bill 208, Domestic Asset Protection Trust Amendments by Representative Snow, to the Rules Committee for interim study. A favorable recommendation on House Bill 368, Jury Duty Amendments by Representative Hall. HJR 12, Joint Resolution on Appointment of Legal Counsel for Executive Officers by Representative McKell. Senate Bill 126, Child Welfare Amendments by Senator Harper with amendments. Respectfully, Kay McKiff, Committee Chair.
Representative McKiff? Nope, he's not there. Representative Perry?
The motion to accept the committee report.
Thank you. Motion is to adopt the committee report. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. The motion passes. The committee report is adopted. House Bill 208 will be returned to rules for interim study. House Bill 368, HJR 12, and Senate Bill 126 have been read for the second time and will be placed on their respective third reading calendars. Madam Reading Clerk.
February 26, 2014, Madam Speaker, the Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice Committee has returned House Bill 343, Purchase of Correctional Industry Goods and Services by Representative Christofferson, to the Rules Committee for interim study. And it reports a favorable recommendation on House Bill 373, Firearm Transfer Certification Amendments by Representative Wilcox, and House Bill 385, Expert Testimony Notice Requirement Amendments by Representative Greenwood. Respectfully, Curtis Oda, Committee Chair.
Representative Oda.
Move to adopt the committee report.
Thank you. Motion is to adopt the committee report. Is there discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Where the motion passes, the committee report is adopted. House Bill 343 will be returned to the Rules Committee for interim study. House Bill 373 and House Bill 385 have been read for the second time and will be placed on the House third reading calendar. Madam Reading Clerk.
February 26, 2014, Madam Speaker, the Natural Resources, Agriculture and Environment Committee recommends House Bill 67, Political Subdivision Jurisdiction Amendments by Representative Roberts be replaced, and favorably recommends first substitute House Bill 67, Political Subdivision Jurisdiction Amendments. Favorable recommendation on House Bill 149, Amendments to Federal Law Enforcement Limitations by Representative Noel with amendments. House Bill 151, Commission for the Stewardship of Public Lands by Representative Stratton with amendments. House Bill 370, Canal Safety Amendments by Representative Johnny Anderson with amendments. HCR 7, Concurrent Resolution to Support Plans to Reduce Air Pollution in Utah by Representative Briscoe. HJR 21, Joint Resolution on the Sovereign Character of PILT, Payment in Lieu of Taxes by Representative Ivory. And House Bill 386, Repeal of Utah History Endowment Fund by Representative Brown, and recommends to be placed on the consent calendar. Respectfully, Michael Noel, Committee Chair.
Representative Noel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would move to adopt the committee report.
Thank you. Motion is to adopt the committee report. Is there discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Where the motion passes, the committee report is adopted. First substitute, House Bill 67, House Bill 149, House Bill 151, House Bill 370, HCR 7, and HJR 21 have been read for the second time and will be placed on the House third reading calendar. House Bill 386 has been read for the second time and will be placed on the consent calendar. Madam Reading Clerk.
February 26, 2014, Madam Speaker, the Transportation Committee reports a favorable recommendation on House Bill 148, Off-Highway Vehicle Amendments by Representative Noel with amendments. House Bill 206, Driver License Testing Revisions by Representative Elison with amendments. House Bill 388, Amendments to Transportation Funding by Representative Johnny Anderson. And recommends House Bill 360, Prohibition of License Plate Covers by Representative Whately be replaced. And reports a favorable recommendation on first substitute House Bill 360, Display of License Plates, and asks that it be placed on the consent calendar. Respectfully, Johnny Anderson, Committee Chair.
Representative Anderson.
Motion to adopt the committee report.
Thank you. Motion is to adopt the committee report. Is there discussion of the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Although the motion passes, the committee report is adopted. House Bill 148, House Bill 206, and House Bill 388 have been read for the second time and will be placed on the House third reading calendar. House Bill 360. First substitute, House Bill 360 has been read. First substitute, House Bill 360, has been read for the second time and will be placed on the consent calendar. Madam Reading Clerk.
February 27, 2014, Madam Speaker, the Government Operations Committee reports a favorable recommendation on House Bill 390, Unlawful Activities Amendments by Representative Chavez-Houck. House Bill 392, Delegate Responsibility Amendments by Representative Powell with amendments. House Bill 394, Campaign Finance Revisions by Representative Dunnigan with amendments. And HJR 8, Joint Resolution proposing a balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution by Representative Powell. Respectfully, Jack Draxler, Committee Chair.
Representative Draxler.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Motion to adopt the committee report.
Thank you. Motion is to adopt the committee report. Is there discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Where the motion passes, the committee report is adopted. Committee report is adopted. House Bill 390, House Bill 392, HJR 8, and House Bill 394 have been read for the second time and will be placed on the House third reading calendar. Madam Reading Clerk.
February 27, 2014. Madam Speaker, the Political Subdivisions Committee recommends House Bill 382, Limited Purpose Local Government Entities Amendments by Representative D be replaced, and reports a favorable recommendation on first substitute House Bill 382, Limited Purpose Local Government Entities Amendments, and asks that it be placed on the consent calendar. Respectfully, R. Kurt Webb, Committee Chair.
Representative Webb.
What? Oh. Motion to adopt the committee report? Okay, thank you.
Motion is to adopt the committee report. Is there discussion of the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Will the motion pass? The committee report is adopted. First substitute House Bill 382 has been read for the second time and will be placed on the consent calendar. Madam Reading Clerk.
February 27, 2014. Madam Speaker, the Revenue and Taxation Committee reports a favorable recommendation on House Bill 364, Eminent Domain and Public Recreation by Representative Roberts with amendments, and a favorable recommendation on House Bill 381, Local Government Interfund Loans by Representative Notwell. Respectfully, Ryan Wilcox, Committee Chair.
Representative Wilcox.
Motion to adopt the committee report.
Thank you. Motion is to adopt the committee report. Is there discussion to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Rule the motion passes. Committee report is adopted. House Bill 364 and House Bill 381 have been read for the second time and will be placed on the House third reading calendar. Madam Reading Clerk for Rules Committee report.
February 27, 2014. Madam Speaker, the Rules Committee recommends the following bills and resolutions be assigned to standing committees: House Bill 159, House Bill 237, House Bill 297, House Bill 391, House Bill 405, House Bill 396, HCR 11, House Bill 342, House Bill 397, First Substitute Senate Bill 56, House Bill 389, HJR 18, Second Substitute Senate Bill 53, First Substitute Senate Bill 54, Senate Bill 84, Senate Bill 86, Senate Bill 136, Senate Bill 172, SJR 13, SJR 16, First Substitute Senate Bill 55, First Substitute Senate Bill 173, House Bill 157, First Substitute Senate Bill 149, House Bill 387, House Bill 395, HCR 10, House Bill 402, Second Substitute Senate Bill 169, Senate Bill 52, Senate Bill 89, Senate Bill 61, Senate Bill 65, Senate Bill 176, First Substitute Senate Bill 180, and Senate Bill 60. Respectfully, Dean Sampé, Chair.
Representative Sampé.
Motion to adopt the committee report.
Thank you. Motion is to adopt the committee report. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Will the motion passes? The committee report is adopted. Speaker assigns the following bills to the following committees: to Business and Labor, House Bill 159, House Bill 237, House Bill 297, House Bill 391, and House Bill 405. To Economic Development and Workforce Services, House Bill 396 and HCR 11. To Education, House Bill 342, House Bill 397, and First Substitute Senate Bill 56. To Government Operations, House Bill 389, HJR 18, Second Substitute Senate Bill 53, First Substitute Senate Bill 54, Senate Bill 84, Senate Bill 86, Senate Bill 136, Senate Bill 172, SJR 13, and SJR 16. To Health and Human Services, First Substitute Senate Bill 55. To Judiciary, First Substitute Senate Bill 173. To Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice, House Bill 157, First Substitute Senate Bill 149. To Natural Resources, Agriculture, and Environment, House Bill 387, House Bill 395, and HCR 10. To Political Subdivisions, House Bill 402, and Second Substitute Senate Bill 169. To Public Utilities and Technology, Senate Bill 52 and Senate Bill 89. To Revenue and Taxation, Senate Bill 61, Senate Bill 65, Senate Bill 176, and First Substitute Senate Bill 180. And to Transportation, Senate Bill 60. Madam Reading Clerk for Communications from the Senate.
February 27, 2014. Madam Speaker, the Senate passed as amended First Substitute House Bill 225, Primary Law Enforcement Duties for Sheriffs by Representative Ray, and is transmitted for further consideration. Respectfully, Leslie McLean, Secretary of the Senate.
Thank you, Madam Reading Clerk. This bill has been read for the first time and will be referred to the Rules Committee. Madam Reading Clerk. That was the one I just read? Okay, I got that wrong. Thank you, Madam Reading Clerk. First Substitute House Bill 225 will be placed on the concurrence calendar for further consideration. Madam Reading Clerk.
February 27, 2014. Madam Speaker, the Senate passed House Bill 16, Wrongful Lien Amendments by Representative Webb, House Bill 76, insurance-related revisions by Representative Byrd. House Bill 203, bail bond recovery licensure board amendments by Representative Redd. House Bill 247, court parking facilities by Representative Wiley. First substitute, House Bill 253, State Fair Corporation Board amendments by Representative McKell. House Bill 260, local school board candidate reporting amendments by Representative Powell. First substitute, House Bill 267, aging and adult services amendments by Representative Chavez-Hauk. House Bill 289, Traffic Control Signal Amendments by Representative Johnny Anderson. House Bill 304, Law Enforcement Volunteer Amendments by Representative Greenwood. House Bill 309, State Veterinarian Amendments by Representative Menlove. House Bill 321, Refugee Services Coordination Amendments by Representative Menlove. And House Bill 327, Veterans Employment Opportunity Amendments by Representative Ray. These bills have been signed by the President and are transmitted for the signature of the Speaker. Respectfully, Leslie McLean, Secretary of the Senate. In here, I did. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Reading Clerk. House Bill 16, House Bill 76, House Bill 203, House Bill 247, First Substitute, House Bill 253, House Bill 260, First Substitute, House Bill 267, House Bill 289, House Bill 304, House Bill 309, House Bill 321, and House Bill 327 will be signed by the Speaker and referred to staff for enrolling. Madam Reading Clerk.
February 27, 2014, Madam Speaker, the Senate passed Senate Bill 83, Local Sales and Use Tax Act Amendments by Senator Hilliard, Senate Bill 198, Law Enforcement Exemption for Medical Information by Senator Adams, Senate Bill 199, Amendments to Emergency Telephone Service Law by Senator Bramble, and Senate Bill 203, Immigration Amendments by Senator Bramble. These bills are transmitted for consideration. Respectfully, Leslie McLean, Secretary of the Senate.
Thank you, Madam Reading Clerk. These bills have been read for the first time and will be referred to the Rules Committee. Madam Reading Clerk.
February 27, 2014, Madam Speaker, the Senate concurred in the House amendments and passed Senate Bill 130, Trust Deed Foreclosure Amendments by Senator Harper, and it's transmitted for the signature of the Speaker. Respectfully, Leslie McLean, Secretary of the Senate.
Thank you, Madam Reading Clerk. This bill, Senate Bill 130, will be signed by the Speaker and returned to the Senate for the signature of the President. Representative Peterson for the Third House.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today we have a break. The road home, Senator Ellison. That's for you, man. I've ignored him twice now, so you get an honorable mention. There'll be a break for us this afternoon. So a little unprepared, so we're going to do two truths and a lie. This representative says, I had my life threatened by a pimp who lived next door after I chased away all of his hookers. I spent the second week of my first job on suspension for drawing an unflattering picture of my boss and hanging it in the break room. Third, at NCSL Atlanta, I roomed with Ryan Wilcox and borrowed his toothbrush when he was not looking. I did not borrow Representative Wilcox's toothbrush. That's gross.
Wow. Thank you, Representative. Representative Seelig for the Minority Party.
Just caucusing at 12:30 today and look forward to see your shining, happy faces. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Dee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For the Majority Caucus, we will be caucusing today. I cannot overemphasize how important it is that you're in these caucus meetings. We're at that time of the session where it's imperative that we discuss these issues and have you in there. We will be caucusing at 12:30. I also hope you have bright, shiny faces, smiling faces. Whatever. I'm going to move that we recess until this afternoon at 2 p.m.
Thank you. Motion is to recess until this afternoon at 2 p.m. All in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. Rule the motion passes. We are recessed.